Hello everyone, welcome to What If Deku Fell in Love with Mina Ashido movie. Before we start, please go support cismomusic for writing that awesome fanfic. This is the translated version I made. There will be some mistake in character's gender, but of course Deku is a male. After a disappointment in love, Mina will meet a certain green-haired man who will slowly get into her heart. Without realizing it, both will have a mutual feeling for each other. Chapter 1, First Meeting. There I was, IZUKU Midoriya, walking through the streets on a rainy day, after finishing my training with all might. I'm not going to lie to you, every part of my body hurt, but I couldn't complain. I had to strengthen my body to be a good recipient and successor. It was a cool day and the rain made it worse. Thank goodness I had checked the weather forecast that day, otherwise I would have been completely soaked. As I was walking, I passed a small square that was near my house, and I couldn't help but stop when I saw a girl with pink skin like her hair and small horns coming out of her head which highlighted her yellow color, among those pink curls of her hair. She was sitting on one of the swings in that square. She was dressed in a purple short-sleeved shirt. Her gaze was completely lost on the ground. Her arms hugged her delicate chest, protecting herself from the cold. Drops of water fell from her pink locks. I couldn't just continue on my way and ignore her. Without thinking twice, I approached her and placed my umbrella over her head so she wouldn't get wet. She looked up at me, and when I saw her up close I could see her beautiful eyes, a mix of brown and yellow, that were completely watery. I couldn't help but get lost in his gaze, and as best I could I formulated the following question. "Are you okay?" She just lowered her head and said to me. "Yes, I'm fine," he replied with a broken voice. Her words were about to break and she started crying, so I knelt down beside her, making our eyes meet again. "IZUKU, that's a lie. Your lips tell me I'm fine, but the tears in your beautiful eyes tell me otherwise." At that I could see how her eyes had become more watery, and the tears were running down her beautiful cheeks, until they fell from her delicate chin. Without thinking, she just clung to me in a big hug, resting her head on my chest, while she let out tears. I just put my right hand on her delicate back, while my left hand held the umbrella over our heads, to prevent the rain from getting us wet. I was certainly a stranger to her, and yet she hugged me and burst into tears. We were like that for about 15 minutes until she calmed down. She just moved her head away from my chest, raising her gaze, staring at me. I couldn't help but blush at those bright eyes. She just said to me, "Forgive me. I hugged you without thinking. I know that for you I am a stranger. But when you said those words to me I couldn't hold back any longer, and I collapsed emotionally." "IZUKU, don't worry, your hug was very warm," said the freckled boy in a low voice. "If you want, you can tell me what happened to you. Why is a girl as beautiful as you so depressed?" Slowly his eyes fell, staring at the ground again. When I saw her I knew I had made her sad again. "IZUKU, I'm sorry, I know I'm nobody to you. And I'm asking you things that aren't my problem. I didn't want to make you feel bad, She put a finger on my lips, silencing me, looked at me again and said, "Please stay with me a little longer. I want someone to listen to me. Your company is very warm." Our faces were so close, she really was so pretty that I ignored everything around me just to see her. His eyes never left mine, they were attentive, waiting for an answer. I just smiled at her while with my right hand I caressed her pink hair, and I said to her, "I won't leave you alone. I'll stay with you as long as necessary." She just gave me a slight smile, and with her warm and beautiful voice she said, "Thank you." Her arms were still shaking a little, so I gave her my umbrella, while from my backpack I took out a towel to dry her face and hair. She just watched as I delicately dried her face, then I took off the sweater I was wearing and put it on her. It certainly suited her, she looked very beautiful. She just asked me, "Why do you do it?" "IZUKU, do what?" Without stopping to look at me he answered, "Why are you doing all this for me? To you I'm a stranger, you don't know me and yet you're here with me. Did you give me your sweatshirt even though it's cold? Why do you do it?" "IZUKU, well, it was cold for you, right? I couldn't let such a pretty girl get cold, you could catch a cold," he said, showing her a big smile. "I also want to be a hero and help people however I can." She just looked at me as a small blush appeared on her cheeks. She told me my name is Mina Ashido. IZUKU, nice to meet you, Mina. My name is IZUKU Midoriya. Mina, thank you very much, IZUKU. At that point we both started walking through the streets, protecting ourselves from the rain with the umbrella. It was something strange, we seemed like a couple, we were so attached without realizing it. Mina, today was definitely not my day, she said with a sad voice. IZUKU, why do you say that? Mina, today I was going to have my first date. With the boy I liked, we had agreed to meet at the entrance of the cinema. We were going to see a movie together. A day ago I confessed my feelings to him. He told me that he liked me too. I was very happy that we had agreed to go on a date today. I wanted to look my best for him. I wanted our first date to be special. But when I arrived at the place a few minutes late, I was very excited to spend the day with the boy I liked. But when I arrived, my eyes had watered seeing the boy I liked kissing another girl. I thought he was going to break away from the kiss, but he didn't. He held her by the waist, pulling her closer to him. As she told me her story, her eyes had started to water. Mina, you know the worst thing is that I already knew how this was going to end, but still, I got excited. She hugged me again. The only thing I could think was how that boy didn't realize how special a person was that loved him. I will never like people who play with other people's feelings. I just hugged her back. While I held her tightly, I felt that if I let go, she would collapse. I could feel the warmth of her embrace. I certainly didn't want to let go. I brought my lips close to her ears and whispered, "Opportunities are like sunrises. If you wait too long, you miss them, and I think he missed the most beautiful sunrise my eyes have ever seen." She just pulled away and a nice blush appeared on her cheeks. The pink-haired girl played with her fingers and somewhat nervously asked me, "Do you really think I am beautiful?" I looked her in the eyes and said, "Of course, and you look more beautiful when your face gives away your beautiful smile." Mina, thanks Midoriya. I just smiled at him. Mina would say in her thoughts, "His smile is so gentle, his words are so sincere and kind. If only I could turn back time and meet you first, I'm sure I would." So I walked her home, and when we arrived, she just turned to me, giving me a beautiful smile as a farewell. At that moment I just felt my heart rate speed up. A part of me just wanted to see her smile forever. Without realizing it, she came closer to me and I could feel her tender lips on my cheeks. As we parted, he said to me, "Thank you for being there for me today, for listening to me, Midoriya." "IZUKU, you're welcome, Miss Ashido." She just looked me straight in the eyes. It seemed like she wanted to tell me something, but her lips wouldn't let her. At that point I approached her and gave her a kiss on the cheek to say goodbye. Mina just had a big blush as she watched the freckled green-haired boy walk in the rain. There was something about her that told him she wanted to continue talking to him more. Chapter 2. Do you know her? That boy who had listened to her, who had dedicated his time and his words to her, even though he was a stranger to her. Without a doubt, Mina wanted to continue talking to him. The pink-haired girl went inside her house. Her mother was worried about her. She had asked her where she had been. Mina did not want to tell her what had happened. Her mother saw the sweatshirt she was wearing and asked her, "Daughter, where did you get that sweatshirt? Or where did you buy it? It just looks really nice on you." Mina just had a big blush on her face as she remembered that sweatshirt was IZUKU's. Her mother would see this and with a mischievous voice she would say, Era, don't tell me that the boy you like gave you that jumpsuit." Mina's blush was more noticeable. She was somewhat nervous and replied, Don't say those things, Mom. A friend lent me this jacket so I wouldn't be cold, and that's all." His mother would say, "Era, so a friend, huh? For you to blush like that, it must be someone very special to you." Mina would just bow her head saying, "I'm going to my room." After saying that, the pink-haired girl would leave very saddened by her mother's words. "Mrs. Ashido, I've never seen her get like that. That boy must be someone special to get her like that." Mina, upon entering her room, would just lie down on her bed. She would be remembering the kiss of the boy she liked with the other girl, but that sad memory was quickly overshadowed by the memory of IZUKU's smile. Mina would remember the freckled man's words. Opportunities are like sunrises. If you wait too long, you miss them, and I think I missed the most beautiful sunrise my eyes have ever seen. Those simple words had made the pink-haired girl blush, Mina in her thoughts would say. I want to see him again. His company was very warm. His smile was very beautiful. Huh. B but W, what things am I thinking about? Mina would just cover her face with her pillow while saying, why didn't I ask for his phone number? I wonder if I'll ever see him again. Meanwhile, IZUKU would have arrived home. His mother would see him undressed and asked him, IZUKU, why didn't you take a sweatshirt? It's cold out there. IZUKU, WLI. I gave my sweatshirt to a girl. She was very cold and I couldn't let her be cold, especially with this rain. Inko would just smile and say, that's my little hero, always helping others. IZUKU would just smile. The freckled boy would go take a bath. After having bathed, he would lie down on his bed. IZUKU, wow, today's training was really difficult. This seems like a dream. Until recently I was a quirkless, but All Might is training me to be the new successor and bearer of One for All. There are still 3 months left for the entrance exams for the UA. He would close his eyes and say, her lips were so soft. I wonder how she is. Maybe I will never see her again, but she was very pretty. Her smile was really beautiful. The freckled boy would fall asleep the next day. IZUKU would get up at 6 in the morning to go clean the beach as part of his training. The hours had already passed. It was already 12 noon. IZUKU would be all sweaty. The day was a sunny and warm one. All Might, very well shonen, you are progressing a lot. IZUKU would just give a smile. All Might, well shonen, tomorrow we'll see each other at the same time. IZUKU, it's okay All Might. All Might would leave the place with a big jump. IZUKU just looked at the sky, somewhat thoughtful, and began to walk through the streets. The freckled boy would be turning the corner of the street, lost in his thoughts as he collided with someone. IZUKU would fall to the ground just like the person he collided with. IZUKU would look up seeing a beautiful black-haired girl wearing a beautiful dress. IZUKU, I'm sorry, forgive me miss, I was distracted. Are you okay? You didn't hurt yourself? The beautiful girl would look up, seeing the green-haired man's emerald eyes as well as his hair. This would say, no, it was my fault, I was distracted, I'm sorry and I feel fine, don't worry. IZUKU would extend his hand to the black-haired girl. She would only see the freckled boy giving a smile while taking her hand. IZUKU, I apologize again, I'm glad to know you weren't hurt. He would only show his typical smile. The girl would only see the freckled man's smile and notice the kindness and warmth that it conveyed. IZUKU, my name is IZUKU Midoriya. What is your name, miss? The jet black girl would say. Forgive my manners, my name is Momo Yaoyorozu. IZUKU would just open his eyes wide saying, are you the daughter of the multi-millionaire Yaoyorozu family? Momo, somewhat embarrassed, replied. Yes, I am his daughter. IZUKU, nice to meet you. Momo, likewise Midoriya. Both young men would just stare at each other and then IZUKU would be hugged from behind, hearing a voice that told him, I finally found you, IZUKU-kun, I'm glad to see you again. IZUKU would look to his side seeing some small yellow horns, which came out of some messy pink hair. There were those beautiful eyes that I had seen yesterday, this one, somewhat blushing, would say. Miss Ashido. Mina would pout and say, you can call me Mina, yes. She gave him a tender smile. IZUKU would see it and blush deeply. Momo would just watch the scene and say, well, see you Midoriya. IZUKU, see you, Miss Yaoyorozu. The brunette would leave the place. Mina would let go of IZUKU. Somewhat embarrassed by the sudden hug, she would ask, do you know her? IZUKU, well, I just met her. Mina, well, it didn't seem like they were looking at each other as if there was something more. IZUKU, what are you talking about? Mina, no, you're welcome, it's nice to see you again. I wanted to thank you for what happened yesterday, thank you for not leaving me alone. IZUKU, I wasn't going to abandon you, you look more beautiful now. Mina with a slight blush would say. What are you saying? IZUKU, You look very beautiful when you smile. I feel lucky to be able to see that smile of yours. Chapter 3. I really felt like your girlfriend. Mina would blush greatly and would move her face to the side, because the pink-haired girl did not want the green-haired girl to see her so embarrassed. IZUKU, by the way Mina, what are you doing here? Mina, oh right, well I went out to do some shopping and by chance I ran into you IZUKU. IZUKU, that means fate wants us to be together. Mina would be very red at the comment. IZUKU would just laugh a little. Mina, be baka, don't laugh. IZUKU, I'm sorry but I can't help it, you look very cute when you blush. Mina would just pout cutely. IZUKU, and now you look cuter. Mina, take. He said this while giving IZUKU several light blows. IZUKU would only look at the pink-haired girl's eyes. For Mina it was as if time had stopped. For in front of her were those emerald eyes that attracted her so much. IZUKU then. Do you want me to go shopping with you? Mina, no, it's not necessary. She would lower her head and while playing with her fingers in a tender way she would say, but if you want to come with me I wouldn't have any problem. IZUKU, then let's go. The freckled boy would give his typical smile. Mina would reciprocate in the same way. Both young people began to walk while talking about various things. They entered a small supermarket in the area. The freckled one carried the basket for the things, while the pink-haired girl looked for the things she had to take. The people in the supermarket just looked at them because they looked like a cute couple since they were so close and they looked so happy. After having bought all the things the young people left the supermarket, Mina had bought 2 canned drinks. Mina, let's sit on that bench. The pink-haired girl would point to a bench that was located under a beautiful tree. IZUKU would just nod his head as the freckled boy helped Mina carry the bags. The pair of friends sat under the refreshing shade of the tree. Mina would give IZUKU a drink. The freckled boy would only thank her for the gesture. Both would be sitting very close to each other. IZUKU would place his drink on his left side since the pink-haired girl was on his right side. IZUKU, thank goodness it's a nice day today. Mina, you're right, it's a very beautiful day, well at least for me it's beautiful. Both of them would just stretch their arms up and at the same time rest their hands on the bench. IZUKU would feel that there was something warm on his right hand. He would look and see that his hand was with Mina's. Mina would also see that her hand was with the freckled boy's. Both young people removed their hands very blushed. IZUKU, I'm so sorry I didn't do it on purpose. Mina, and nothing's wrong. The blush on both of them was noticeable. Mina would only start laughing. IZUKU, Mina, are you okay? Mina, yes, I'm sorry, it's just that you look very cute blushing. IZUKU would just look to his side somewhat embarrassed. Mina just laughed. IZUKU, we better get going or your mom's gonna worry. Mina, oh yes, it's true. They would both load their bags and start walking. Mina, I'm sorry for putting you through all this. IZUKU, it's okay, I was the one who wanted to help you too. I won't lie to you, I also wanted to see you again. Mina would have a slight blush on her cheeks and in a low voice she would say, I wanted to see you again too. On the way people just looked at them. Mina was almost attached to IZUKU, because without a doubt the pink-haired girl had a beautiful body as well as being pretty, so it was quite common for boys to yell various things at her or look at her in a perverted way. IZUKU noticed this so he took Mina's left hand. Mina blushed quite a bit saying, IZUKU, what are you doing? IZUKU, just walk, don't worry. The screams and kisses that the boys were throwing had stopped. The pink-haired girl just walked very blushed, but she couldn't deny that she liked the feeling that IZUKU gave her. The freckled boy sure knew how to make her heart race. When he arrived at Mina's house, the freckled boy found his hand alone. Mina, thanks for everything IZUKU. IZUKU, somewhat embarrassed, would say, sorry for holding your hand, it's just that it bothered me that those boys looked at you in a different way. Besides, they were saying several things to you that I didn't like, that's why I held your hand so they would think that we were a couple, that way it wouldn't bother you. Sorry if what I did was wrong. Mina would drop the bags on the ground and hug IZUKU. IZUKU and Mina. Mina, thank you for worrying about me and the hand thing, She would look into Izuku's eyes and with a big blush she said, "I like that you held my hand, it really made me feel like I was your girlfriend." The freckled boy's face would be completely red just like Mina's. "Izuku, well you're the first." "Mina, the first one?" "Izuku, the first girl I held hands with." Mina would just lonely Izuku and with a cute smile would say, "And you're the first boy I've held hands with." Both young people just stared at each other, and then a voice would say, Era. Mina couldn't help but slowly turn around when she heard that voice. "Mina, Mom, since when have you been here?" "Mrs. Ashido, who knows? Aren't you going to introduce me to your boyfriend, daughter?" Mina, quite embarrassed, replied, Don't say those things, Mom, he's just my friend." "Izuku, nice to meet you, Mrs. Ashido. My name is Izuku Midoriya and I am Mina's friend." The freckled man was very respectful of women because his mother had raised him very well. "Mrs. Ashido, nice to meet you, Izuku." "So you're just his friend, huh?" Well, they looked like a couple when they hugged each other. The heads of both young men were smoking. Mrs. Ashido, "Well, Izuku, don't you want to go into the house?" "Izuku, no thanks, I'm sorry but I have to go now, my mother must be waiting for me." Mrs. Ashido, "Well then it will be for next time." "Izuku, see you later, Mina, and see you later, Mrs. Ashido, it was a pleasure meeting you." After saying that, the freckled boy ran home. Mina just watched Izuku walk away. Mrs. Ashido, "Wow, he's a very cute and polite boy, you definitely chose a good boyfriend, daughter." Mina, Mom, we're just friends." Both would enter their house. Chapter 4. The Proposal for a Date. The hours had passed, and it was already nighttime. Our beautiful pink-haired boy would be lying on his bed, covering his face with a pillow while he remembered the beautiful day he had spent with the green-haired boy. Mina, her hand was so soft and warm. I would like to walk like this with him every day. A week had passed since Izuku and Mina had met, and had not seen each other again. The freckled boy had gotten a part-time job at a large, well-known bookstore in the city. Although his mother was initially opposed to the idea of Izuku working, the freckled boy wanted to earn some money to help his mother. We can see the freckled boy who was arranging the new books that had arrived, and then he heard a small voice from the other side of the bookshelf. The freckled boy would go to see what was happening, and he would see that on a small bench there was a girl standing on tiptoe to reach a book. She would say, "I'm almost there." The girl would take the book with the tip of her fingers, and then the bench on which she was standing would give way, causing the girl to suddenly fall. The freckled man would quickly react and catch her in his arms. "Izuku, are you okay, miss?" The girl would open her eyes seeing the green-haired man. "Izuku, eh? But you are Miss Yaoyorozu." Momo, blushing a little, would say, "Izuku, what are you doing here?" "Izuku, good job here." Momo, "Well, thanks for catching me." The freckled boy still had Momo in his arms. The brunette would be blushing. "Izuku, good thing I caught her. I wouldn't want her to get hurt." Momo just looked into the freckled boy's eyes, noticing his kindness, saying, Well, can you put me down?" Izuku, "Oh, of course, forgive me." Izuku gently lowered her down and stared at her. "Momo, what's wrong?" Why are you looking at me like that?" "Izuku, I'm sorry. Well, that dress looks very beautiful on you." He gave her a warm smile. Momo would only have a slight blush. Izuku would raise the book which was on the ground, saying, Via Eligio, one of my favorite books. Threads of Fate. It is a beautiful work by the author Sismo. I love this story, it has a lot of poetry. It's a romantic story. They both said at the same time. Momo, do you like this story? Izuku, it's one of my favorites, but the one I like the most is Unrequited Love. They said that phrase at the same time, and in the same way they would say, in Spanish, unrequited love. Both young people only had a blush on their faces. It was as if they were connected to say the same thing. Izuku, I've never met a person who shares my reading tastes. Momo, me too. Izuku, good morning to my beloved sister Yaoyorozu. Momo, you can just call me Momo. Izuku, be bueno Momo. Momo would just give a beautiful smile. Izuku, well, I have to get back to work. Are you going to buy the book, or is it to read in the library? Momo, I'll buy it, but I'll read a little bit about it here. Izuku, well, if you can't find another book, just call me. I don't want you to get hurt. Izuku would turn around to walk, but Momo would stop him. Izuku, Miss Momo, do you need anything else? Momo, well, I wonder if maybe you. The brunette was a little nervous as she held the book against her chest. The green-haired man just gave her a smile, saying, My shift will end in 10 minutes. If you want, you can wait for me so we can read the book together. Momo with a big smile would say yes. Izuku would see that smile and go back to work. The brunette would sit at a table in the library to wait for the freckled man. They had undoubtedly only seen each other once, but that was enough to want to know more about the freckled man. But now she knew that they shared the same tastes for reading. The brunette wanted to know more about the freckled boy. Momo wanted to be his friend. 10 minutes had passed. Izuku would go with Momo and sit next to her. An hour had passed and both young people had spent the time laughing while reading the book. Momo and Izuku had quickly made an incredible connection as they realized that they had many things in common. Momo was happy to meet Izuku because now she had someone to talk to about her books. The freckled boy felt the same way. Momo would look at the time on her phone and see that she had to leave. With a sad look she would say, I have to go home now. My family is organizing a dance and I have to be there. Izuku, do you want me to walk you home? Momo, no need for a limo, it will come for me, you know, only child, overprotective parents. Izuku, I understand you. Momo, really? Izuku, yes, I am also an only child and my mother worries a lot about me. Momo, well, that adds to another thing we have in common. Both would just laugh a little. Momo would pay for the book and together with Izuku they would leave the bookstore. Outside a limousine was waiting for the brunette. Momo, well, see you Izuku. She had her head down. Izuku, Momo. Momo, yes, what's wrong? Izuku, what are you doing tomorrow? Momo, eh? Nothing, why do you ask? Izuku, tomorrow there's a convention for the new book by the author Cismo. Would you like to go see it with me? Momo would only have a slight blush, she would say in her thoughts. Are you asking me out on a date? This would say. Of course, I would love to go with you Izuku. Izuku, good. They exchanged phone numbers. Izuku, I'll pick you up tomorrow at 4 p.m. Momo, I'll wait for you at that time. The brunette would have a big smile. Izuku saw the brunette get into the limo, he would say. Goodbye Momo. Momo, adios Izuku. Now the green-haired boy would see the limousine move away from the place. In the limousine Momo was very happy because she would have her first date. She would be blushing. Chapter 5. The Childhood Friend. Meanwhile, our pretty pink-haired girl had gone out shopping every day during that week that had passed, hoping to meet that green-haired boy. With that boy who had made her have a beautiful day and who had taken her by the hand, but unfortunately for Mina she had not been able to see him. We can see our pink-haired girl lying on her bed a little sad while she said to herself, I'm an idiot because I didn't ask for his phone number that time, at least then I could talk to him. She closed her eyes remembering when she had hugged him she would say. The heat of his body was warm. Her face turned completely red and she was smoking. She sat up suddenly on her bed while saying, but what's wrong with me? Why can't I stop thinking about him? Calm down Mina, take a deep breath, you'll be able to see him again. For now I must concentrate in order to pass the entrance exam for the UA. Meanwhile, our green-haired boy, after saying goodbye to Momo, resumed his way towards his house. When he arrived, as usual, he said, I'm home now, Mom. His mother greeted him with a kind smile saying, I'm glad you're back, son, go take a bath, in a few minutes we'll go to the Hado house, remember that today is Nijire's birthday. At his mother's words, the green-haired boy froze, because to tell the truth he had forgotten that today was the birthday of the light blue-haired girl, his best friend from childhood. Izuku was about to speak when he heard someone knocking on the front door. Inko, son, can you see who it is? Izuku, oh yes, of course. The green-haired boy opened the door and found a certain blonde who was his neighbor. Kaken grabbed him by the shoulders, saying, "Tell me you forgot to buy him a nerdy gift too." He spoke quite nervously and with a tone of desperation. Izuku nodded his head. "Kaken, thank goodness, we still have time. I know a store where we can buy him a gift." Izuku, before he could say, he saw Bakugo from the door shout, "We'll be back in a moment, Mrs. Midoriya." After saying that, he started running at high speed while dragging the green-haired boy. After about 15 minutes, we can see how both friends were breathing heavily, outside a store. They had both bought a gift for the light blue-haired Kaken. With some difficulty said, "We did it, buddy." "Izuku, if we do it." They both bumped fists and started walking back to their homes. Bakugo, "Thank goodness, if I had forgotten her birthday she would never have let me forget it," he said, trembling with fear. "Izuku, and you say it, I still remember what he did to you last time." "Kaken, please Deku, don't make me remember it," he said while shaking even more. But despite everything she is a good friend." "Izuku, you're right, at first you couldn't get used to her, but in the end look at yourself buying her a birthday present." "Bakugo, I guess people can change a little, right Deku?" he said while giving him a small punch on the right arm. "Izuku, if you're right." "Kaken, by the way, did you train with All Might today?" "Izuku, no, today was my day off, but tomorrow I'm back to training again." "You're coming, right?" "Kaken, of course, I can't stay behind you, nerd." Note: so you understand better here, Kaken would know that Izuku was training to be All Might's successor. Later you will know how it all happened. End of note. The young people arrived at their homes and said goodbye, because they knew that in a few minutes they would meet to go to the blue-haired girl's house. "Izuku, I'm back home again," he said while letting out a small laugh. Inko, "Okay, now go take a bath, son." Izuku, "Yes, Mom." He went up to his room, leaving the gift on his bed. He went in to take a shower, and while he was bathing he remembered the words of a certain pink-haired woman. "I like that you held my hand, I really felt like I was your girlfriend." Izuku blushed as he remembered the look and feeling he felt when Mina had hugged him. "Izuku, I'm an idiot for not asking for her cell phone number, so at least I could talk to her." He took a deep breath and said, "I haven't seen her since then. I want to see her again." After a few minutes the green-haired boy was already dressed. He went down with his gift in hand, ready to go to the blue-haired girl's house. "Izuku, I'm ready, Mom." Inko, "Okay, let's go, Yen." She couldn't finish speaking as she heard a knock on the door. Inko went and opened it, meeting Mitsuki, Bakugo, and his son. "Inko, I'm glad to see you." She gave them both a hug. "Mitsuki, how have you been? Are you ready yet?" The blonde saw Izuku, saying, "Wow Izuku, it's been a while since I saw you, look at you, you're very handsome." "You got like that for Miss Nijire, didn't you?" he said with a mischievous smile. "Izuku, you're wrong, Mrs. Mitsuki." Mitsuki, just kidding, boy." "Bakugo, you already know how she is, Deku." Inko, "Okay, let's get going." The four of them would leave for their destination. They were in Mitsuki's car. Izuku and Bakugo were sitting in the back seats. They were nervous. "Kaken, you're so nervous, Deku." Izuku, look who barely says it and can speak well. Meanwhile we can see a certain light blue-haired girl in her room. She was fixing her hair while looking at herself in the mirror. The light blue-haired girl had a beautiful smile on her face, because that was a special day for her. She received a message from her other two friends, Tamaki and Mirio. Mirio chat. "We are almost at your house, Nijire." Tamaki chat. "My stomach hurts, I bet there will be a lot of people." The light blue-haired girl saw that message and let out a little laugh, replying that she would wait for them. The light blue-haired girl turned around and saw a small picture frame, where she appeared with a certain green-haired boy and a certain blonde boy. She smiled slightly, saying, "I can't wait for them to arrive." Then she heard her mother say from the other side of the door, Daughter, Aiza has arrived. Mrs. Hato couldn't finish speaking, as the light blue-haired girl opened the door to her room and quickly went down to greet them, leaving her mother still in the same place, as she had never seen her so happy and anxious. Izuku and Kaken were sitting on the sofa in the Hato living room, while they waited for their friend. At that, they both felt a pair of hands hug them by the neck, while a tender and happy voice said, "You guys finally arrived, I was waiting for you." Both young people knew who the person who was hugging them was. "Kaken, tch you know I don't like hugs," Nijire whispered in his ear. "Hey Kaken, tell me, will the same thing happen again as last year?" Bakugan knew what he was talking about. He broke into a cold sweat as he remembered. "Izuku, happy birthday Nijire." The green-haired boy gave her a kiss on the cheek, making Nijire a little surprised and blushing lightly. "Izuku, here's your gift." "Nijire, G. Gracias Izuku." The light blue-haired girl grabbed the green-haired boy's gift. Bakugu approached her and looked to the side saying, "Here's your gift, happy birthday." "Nijire, no me vas a dar en beso como Izuku?" A vein appeared on Kaken's forehead, a sign that he was irritated. "Bakugu, I'd rather kiss my dog than you." Nijire also had a vein on her forehead at that comment. She frowned somewhat irritated and said, "Can you repeat what you said, Bakugu?" "Kaken, don't even think about it if you didn't listen." "Nijire, that's why you don't have a girlfriend." "Bakugu, and you're still single for being weird." Nijire looked at Bakugu already quite annoyed. Izuku looked at them with a drop of sweat on his head and said, "You don't change anymore, you always fight." After a few minutes Tamaki and Mirio arrived. They greeted everyone respectfully. They both wished the light blue-haired girl a happy birthday. Mirio with a big smile would say, "Bakugu, Izuku, how have you been? I haven't seen them for a long time." They started talking a little. Well, both Mirio and Tamaki had known the two for a long time through Nijire. After a few minutes, dinner was served. Everyone was eating and talking about various things. The moment was warm. The light blue-haired girl was happy to be with her friends, but she kept thinking about that kiss that the green-haired girl had given her. At one point during dinner, the green-haired boy asked her if they could talk alone for a moment, which surprised the blue-haired girl. They both went out to the back garden to talk alone. Nijire was a little nervous for some reason. She saw how the green-haired man had a serious look. The light blue-haired girl had an idea of what was happening. Little by little her heart accelerated and a slight heat began to adorn her cheeks. "Izuku, Nijire too." Nijire couldn't take it anymore and said, "I'm sorry Izuku, I can't reciprocate your feelings to me. I like someone else." The light blue-haired girl was very blushing. Izuku was left blank by those words and could barely say, "Huh." Chapter 6, Unexpected Encounter. "Izuku, and Nijire, can you repeat what you said just now? I think I heard wrong." Nijire took a breath and said again, "I'm sorry Izuku, I can't reciprocate your feelings to me. I like someone else." The light blue-haired girl was very blushing. "Izuku, why are you rejecting me if I'm not even confessing? And what feelings are you talking about?" "Boy, huh? You. Didn't you want us to be alone to tell me that you like me, and that you have feelings for me, right?" she said, already quite nervous. "Izuku, of course not. Well, it's true that you're pretty, but as I said, you're not my type. Gomen nasai. Sorry for making you think the wrong thing." "Nijire, eh? Hey, tell me, what do you mean by I'm not your type? And I expect a good explanation," he said with a tone that showed some annoyance. Izuku took a deep breath, saying, "I wanted to ask you something else, but now the moment is awkward, so let's just forget about this. Yeah, let's go back inside with the others." The green-haired boy smiled at her as always and walked past her, starting to walk towards the house. Nijire was now the one who had gone blank by those words. Her face was completely red, because how was it possible that she had misunderstood the atmosphere? Now how would she look the green-haired man in the eyes after the awkward moment he made her go through? She turned around, seeing how Izuku was about to enter the house. With a tender pout she shouted at him, "Izuku grandma." Izuku, huh? Why are you telling me that? Nijire just walked past him with her face very flushed and entered the house. In this way the night continued. Everyone was having a great time. Nijire occasionally glanced at the green-haired boy, still feeling embarrassed. As it was almost midnight, everyone began to leave, while saying goodbye to the Hado. Mirio and Tamaki were the first to leave. The last to say goodbye were Inko and Izuku. Mitsuki and Bakugo were waiting for them inside the car. Inko said goodbye and went with Mitsuki. Izuku said goodbye to Nijire's parents, leaving him alone with her. The light blue-haired girl had her gaze down as she looked to the side because she couldn't even look him in the face. Izuku, well, see you Nijire, thanks for inviting us. I promise I'll try hard to get into UA Academy, wait for me. The green-haired boy smiled at her as always. Nijire didn't say anything, she couldn't even formulate a word. Izuku noticed this and just approached her to give her a kiss on the cheek to say goodbye. Since the light blue-haired boy was looking to the side, it would be easier for him to give her a kiss on the cheek. Being just a few inches away from her, Nijire took the confidence to speak and turned her face to look at his face. But she turned her face at the wrong time for both of them. She opened her eyes wide as she felt the sensation and warmth of the green-haired man's lips pressing against hers. A big blush took over her face. Izuku also opened his eyes wide when he saw how he was kissing her. He immediately separated from her, saying, "Don't misunderstand, this was a mistake yours." He couldn't finish speaking as Nijire turned around and entered her house, closing the door behind her. Izuku was quite blushing and could only say, "Great, now I was the one who made things more awkward." TCH, but it was her fault for turning her face so quickly. He just turned around and went to get into the car where they were waiting for him, and seconds later they left towards their houses. Meanwhile, the light blue-haired girl was puffing smoke behind the door, trying to process what had happened a moment ago with that green-haired boy. She could barely say, "Izuku got them. Honestly, the light blue-haired girl looked very cute blushing like that. Meanwhile we can see a certain brunette lying on her bed. She had her hair down and was wearing beautiful pajamas. Momo held her cell phone in her hands. She looked at it because on the screen she could see a name with a phone number. Izuku Midoriya was the name that could be seen. "Momo, what do I do? Should I write to him or not? And if I write to him and I'm bothering him at this hour, I also don't want him to think that I'm impatient about our date tomorrow." Just thinking about that made the brunette blush. The brunette was undecided. She wanted to continue talking to the green-haired man, but she decided not to write to him because she didn't want to bother him. But as she was about to put her phone under her pillow, it vibrated. Her eyes lit up with happiness when she saw who the message had come from. That green-haired man had written to her. The brunette answered him without hesitation. They talked by message for a long time until 1 in the morning. Izuku told Momo that tomorrow afternoon they would meet at the water fountain that was in the center of the city. The brunette gladly accepted and couldn't wait for her date to arrive. They both said goodbye and went to sleep. Well, at least the brunette closed her eyes and was able to sleep. Our green-haired boy was lying on his bed with endless thoughts in his head. After a while he was finally able to fall asleep. The next day it was 6 in the morning and the green-haired boy's alarm went off. Izuku got up, washed his face and teeth, got dressed in sportswear and left his house. Well, he had to go train with All Might outside his house. Bakugo was waiting for him. Both began to walk towards a certain beach that was full of garbage. When they arrived they saw a certain thin blonde who gave them a slight smile upon seeing them. "All Might, I see young Bakugo will be accompanying us today." Bakugo, "Yes, I'm sorry to bother you." All Might, "Of course not, Shonen. You are welcome to train and I am grateful for keeping my secret." Bakugo, "You're welcome, and I also grew up admiring you. I couldn't do anything to ruin your image. Also, I can't stay behind this nerd, especially knowing that he will be your successor. I have to get over it." All Might gave a slight smile saying, "I'm sure both of you will be the best heroes." "Well then let's start with the training." Both young men nodded and began to move garbage that was on the beach. In the case of the green-haired man he had to carry the things to a van that All Might had brought. But Kaken had to explode things until they were reduced to ashes. that way he could improve the power and resistance of his quirk. Not to mention that the blonde also made them both train their bodies. IZUKU had to work even harder to be a good vessel of one for all. They trained until 10 in the morning. They had cleaned almost half of the beach. It was certainly a great advance. Both young men were exhausted. They understood that they were both rivals, and for that simple reason their motivation to not fall behind the other was great. All Might noticed this and smiled because he saw a great future in them without a doubt. All Might, well, enough for today, you did a great job. He gave them both a bottle of water to hydrate themselves. All Might, I know you both can pass the entrance exam. Kaken, of course I will. I will pass it to be a great hero like you. You'll see that I will leave this nerd behind. IZUKU, well, I won't make the path that easy for you, Kaken. Bakugo, that's how it has to be, Deku. They both looked at each other with a challenging look. After a while they said goodbye to All Might and headed home. While they were walking through the streets, Kaken asked, "By the way, nerd, what did you and Nijire talk about last night?" When they returned from the garden, Nijire was acting strange. Did something happen? IZUKU remembered what had happened last night. He had a drop of sweat on his head again. IZUKU, well, you'll see. He proceeded to tell him exactly what had happened. After finishing doing so, Bakugo started laughing out loud while saying, "Haha, did he reject you thinking you were going to confess to him? I seriously can't handle this." The blonde was laughing his head off. IZUKU, and you can say that, he didn't hesitate for a minute to reject me, ah. At least I know I don't have a chance with her. Bakugo, F for you, but you don't like her, or do you? IZUKU, no, Nijire is a friend and nothing more. To tell the truth, there is another person for whom I began to have feelings. Bakugo, I see, now I have a chance to annoy Nijire, this is pure gold. IZUKU, well, I wanted to ask her about something else, and she thought I was going to confess to her, and well, she rejected me. Kaken, no matter how you say it, it still makes me laugh. After walking for a while, they arrived at their homes and said goodbye. Meanwhile, at the UA Academy, more exactly in the classroom of Class 2A, we can see a certain light blue girl lost in her thoughts. Nijire, what do you mean I'm not your type? Don't you find me attractive? The light blue-haired girl had a thoughtful and somewhat downcast look, but in a second it changed when she remembered that accidental kiss they had given each other. Her face was completely covered in smoke. Mirio and Tamaki had noticed how their partner was quite strange and more than usual. Returning to our green-haired boy, he would be taking a bath. Since he was alone at home, his mother had accompanied Mitsuki to a place and would return in the afternoon. IZUKU, after having taken a bath, changed his clothes and went down to the kitchen to prepare a protein shake, since he had to eat well to get more results in his training. After having consumed his shake, he would lie down on the sofa in the living room. But his tranquility would last little when he received a message from his mother telling him that there were no things in the fridge for him to make lunch, and that she had left him money so that he could go buy the things that he would need. After reading the message, the green-haired man looked for the money and went out to buy the things. After all, he was in no hurry since he would be alone. Once he arrived at the supermarket, he was walking through the aisles of the place, looking for the things he needed, and he accidentally collided with a person. The green-haired boy apologized, but when he looked up he found Mina's mother, who upon seeing him greeted him kindly, saying, "Hi, it's you, IZUKU, how have you been? Forgive me, I was distracted and accidentally ran into you." "IZUKU, don't excuse me, Mrs. Ashido, it's my fault for not noticing. Are you okay?" The lady smiled kindly and said, "If I'm okay, it seems you're doing the shopping too." IZUKU, "Oh yeah, well, I'll be home alone, so I came to get the things I need." "Mrs. Ashido, I see. Tell me, don't you want to come to our house for lunch? My daughter will be very happy if she sees you." "IZUKU, I couldn't, that would be abusing your kindness." "Mrs. Ashido, this is to make up for bumping into you, so please come." IZUKU accepted the offer as he would be able to see the pink-haired girl who had been in his thoughts for that week. The green-haired boy helped him with the shopping. Then they left for the pink-haired girl's house. IZUKU was carrying the bags. Mrs. Ashido was very sorry and said, Boy, you don't have to carry all the bags, let me help you, you're our guest. Izuku, don't worry, I can do it alone, and it's not heavy, it's the least I can do. Besides, you're being very kind by inviting me to have lunch at your house. The green-haired man smiled as always. Mrs. Ashido saw that kind and sincere smile, so she said, Please take care of my daughter. Izuku, huh? Did he say something? Mrs. Ashido, nothing, let's continue. They walked for a few minutes until they reached their destination. Before entering the house, the green-haired man asked permission to do so. When Mina's mother came in, she would say, I'm home now, daughter. Mina heard her mother's voice from her room. She quickly went down to help her, but her heart raced when she saw the green-haired man in her house. Their eyes met again. The green-haired man smiled kindly, saying, Good morning, Miss Mina. Chapter 7. Let our date begin. The pink-haired girl's heart raced when she saw the smile the green-haired boy was giving her. Was it a dream? Yes, it must have been a dream. It was not possible that the green-haired man was in his house, but that thought vanished when his mother told him. Daughter, aren't you going to say hello to Izuku? Mina opened and closed her eyes for a few seconds. Izuku just laughed awkwardly. Mina, gee, good morning, Izuku. The pink-haired girl was a little nervous. Mrs. Ashido, daughter takes Izuku to the kitchen, so they leave all the things there. He is our guest today, aren't you happy, daughter? You've been feeling down all these days, and now the boy who had you so worried is here. At those words, both Izuku and Mina blushed slightly. Mina, Mom, what things you say. Izuku, don't pay attention to her, she always says nonsense. The pink-haired girl was so embarrassed that she couldn't formulate a sentence. Without thinking, she took the green-haired boy by the hand, saying, Let's go to the kitchen and drop things off. Mina led the freckled boy by the hand. Mrs. Ashido only saw this with a slight smile because it couldn't be more obvious. Clearly there was something beginning to sprout in her daughter's heart. And she knew that feeling perfectly well. She just started to climb the stairs of her house to put on something more comfortable. With Mina and Izuku, they were in the kitchen. Both had a slight blush. The reason was simple, because the pink-haired girl was still holding his hand. Izuku, Miss Mina. Mina, yes, I'm sorry. She let go of his hand, saying, I'm happy to see you again, Izuku. She smiled kindly at him. Izuku saw that smile and looked away to the side, saying, I'm also happy to see her again. Mina felt happy with those words, and without the green-haired boy seeing her, she smiled slightly. Izuku, now that he had seen her again, could realize how beautiful she was. Those brown eyes and her pink curls of hair were what the green-haired boy loved. He could see how Mina was wearing a white t-shirt with a heart in the middle of it. The t-shirt was a little big. She had short black shorts with red stripes. Yes, she looked beautiful. That outfit highlighted her beautiful body, revealing her pink and delicate legs. Izuku and Mina looked at each other for a second. Both wanted to say something to each other, but they couldn't because they were lost in each other's eyes. Mina, so you'll be our guest today? Izuku, oh yeah, your mom invited me to have lunch with you, and well, to tell the truth, I wanted to see you again. Is it wrong? He asked, somewhat embarrassed. Mina, of course not. Well, if I'm honest, I wanted to see you too. The other day I forgot to ask for your phone number, because I wanted to be able to talk to you a little more, but I guess that these days that I didn't see you are compensated today, since now I have you next to me. Well, I say in my house. The pink-haired girl was a little blushing. Izuku, to tell the truth, I also wanted to ask for your number, but I forgot. Let's exchange cell phone numbers now, okay? Mina, with a beautiful smile, replied. Yes, wait for me, I'll get my cell phone. The pink-haired girl happily left the kitchen and went to her room for her cell phone. After a few minutes, she was already back with the green-haired boy. They both exchanged phone numbers. Mina was definitely really happy. After that, Mina's mom started preparing lunch. The green-haired man helped him. Although at first they refused because he was the guest, they ended up accepting, because the freckled man was stubborn to give up. Izuku was helping Mina cut the vegetables. Honestly, the scene was kind of cute. IZUKU was behind Mina while he held her hands and showed her the correct way to cut the vegetables faster. Mina, feeling his warm hands on hers again, couldn't help but blush slightly. Yes, she was definitely starting to have feelings for that green-haired boy. She saw something different in him from the other boys she had met. After about 40 minutes we can see how the three of them were sitting having lunch. While they were talking and laughing, it was a pleasant moment for everyone. Mrs. Ashido, and tell me, IZUKU, do you plan to enter the UA Academy? IZUKU, with a big smile and a look full of determination, answered. Yes, I want to become a great hero like All Might. I want to save people, with a big smile. I know it won't be an easy road, but the burden and responsibility I have on me is too much, so the only way I will surrender will be when my body falls into the arms of death. Because if it's not for death, then there will be no one to stop me from fulfilling my dreams. Both Mina and her mother were surprised by those words, because at first glance it was clear that she had an unbreakable will. Mina, with a tender smile, would say, I know you can do it, IZUKU-kun. IZUKU, we'll make it, you mean? You also aspire to enter the UA, right? I will not leave the UA if it is not with you by my side. We will leave together as heroes, you will see. Those words made the pink-haired girl blush, because how could she not realize the words she was saying to a girl? In a certain way, the green-haired man was somewhat insensitive. Mrs. Ashido only smiled slightly because she knew that her daughter would be in good hands in the future. She asked, And tell me, IZUKU, do you have a girlfriend or a girl you like? Those words touched the pink-haired girl. She looked at the green-haired girl waiting for an answer. IZUKU, are you girlfriend? No, I don't have one. For some reason that prayer calmed Mina. IZUKU, but to tell the truth, I started to have feelings for a girl, he said, somewhat blushing. Mina didn't know how to feel about that answer, as several questions were forming in her head at that second. Mrs. Ashido, I see. I wish you the best. I know that girl is very lucky to have you, boy. You are very kind and gentlemanly. So the minutes passed and everyone finished lunch. Mina and IZUKU helped pick up things from the table. The green-haired boy helped Mina wash her things. The pink-haired boy seemed to be somewhat lost in her thoughts. But she was brought out of her thoughts when she felt the green-haired man's hand on her cheek. She opened her eyes wide at having him so close. IZUKU, Miss Mina, are you okay? I was talking to him for a while, but he didn't answer me. Mina, yes, I am sorry, I was lost in my thoughts. IZUKU, I see. Well, I'm leaving now, Miss Mina. It was very nice to see her again. The green-haired man smiled kindly at her. Mina had been so lost in her thoughts that she hadn't noticed that the green-haired man was already in the doorway, about to leave her. IZUKU had already said goodbye to Mrs. Ashido. All he had left to say was goodbye to the pink-haired girl. Mina, you know that if you want you can stay a little longer. IZUKU, I appreciate your offer, but I have to go see someone, so I can't. Thank you very much for the lunch. I really had a great time. The green-haired boy approached her and gave her a tender kiss on the cheek and separated from her, saying, See you, Miss Mina. Mina, see you, IZUKU-kun. She could see how the green-haired man slowly walked away from her, and in her mind she wondered if the person she was going to see was the girl she liked. That simple idea made him feel a faint sadness in his chest. Meanwhile, returning with a certain blue hair, she was in the UA gym. She was wearing her sports suit that showed off her beautiful body, and she had been pensive all day long. Mirio and Tamaki had asked her on more than one occasion what was wrong, but she only replied that she was fine and showed a smile to her friends. With the green-haired man, he had gone so far as to take a bath and change to go out on his date with a certain black girl. Well, it was a date, so to speak. After about 20 minutes we could see him walking through the streets. He was wearing a black t-shirt, a red jacket over it, black pants and his red tennis shoes. The green-haired man noticed how it was cloudy, threatening to rain. IZUKU, I hope it doesn't rain. He came to a water source that was in the center of the city. Upon arriving, he found a beautiful brunette who was dressed in something casual, but still made her look elegant. Without a doubt, Momo was the attention of several boys who were in the place. When she saw the green-haired girl, she smiled kindly at him and walked up to him, saying, You finally arrived, Izuku-kun. There was great happiness in the dark-haired girl's eyes. Izuku, good afternoon, Miss Yao. Momo looked at him with a cute pout. Izuku, I mean Momo-san. Momo's eyes lit up with happiness. Izuku in his thoughts would say, how cute. Izuku, well then it's time to go to the Sismo book convention. The brunette with a big smile replied. Yeah. They both started walking while they started talking about various things. After about 15 minutes they arrived at their destination, which was a publishing center for books by several renowned authors. Momo was very excited and you could see the excitement in her eyes. Izuku and the brunette saw that there were a lot of people in the section of the author Sismo. Well, in addition to the fact that he was going to launch his new book, he was going to give a couple of autographs. Momo took the green-haired boy by the hand and led him into line. Izuku laughed a little because she seemed more interested than him. The lines slowly moved forward until it was finally their turn. They reached a table where there was a row of books, of which there were about 6 or so left. They saw a young man with black hair and dark brown eyes, who gave him a kind smile saying, Buenos dias, good. Sismo could not finish speaking as a certain dark-skinned woman put her hands on the table, leaned towards him, and asked him a number of questions such as, what inspired you to write your stories? How do you manage to convey so many feelings? And with a few more questions, Sismo had a drop of sweat on his head, as did Izuku. Sismo, Miss P, please calm down. Hey boy, can you calm your girlfriend down? At these words Momo blushed, saying, he and I are just friends. Sismo, I see, I'm sorry. Okay, let me give you the books. He gave them his autograph saying, here you go guys, thanks for reading my stories. The Raven's eyes shone with excitement. After a few minutes the couple of friends were outside the convention. Momo hugged the green-haired boy saying, thank you for accompanying me today. I'm definitely happy, Izuku. In the distance a certain light blue-haired girl was walking, and to her misfortune, she saw how the dark-haired girl hugged her green-haired friend. Chapter 8. Nijire's Jealousy. Nijire saw that scene from afar, but the distance she was at was enough to distinguish and know that it was her green-haired friend. Yes, there was no doubt she could not be wrong. The light blue-haired girl could see how those two began to walk away from that convention. Without thinking twice she decided to follow them. As she followed them she wondered to herself in her thoughts. Who is she? Why did she hug him like that? Is she the type of girl Izuku likes? The light blue-haired girl had endless questions in her head, questions that needed to have an answer, otherwise she wouldn't be able to be at peace with herself. Besides, it was something she wanted and needed to know, because during that day the green-haired man's words had made her very thoughtful. You're not my type, sorry. If she wanted to know what kind of girl the green-haired boy liked, then she wanted to know if she even seemed at least attractive to him. Nijire followed them stealthily so as not to be discovered, since moments before she had left the UA, and went home after saying goodbye to Mirio and Tamaki. She saw that the day was cloudy, and it seemed that the water was going to come out at any moment. But that was the least of her worries. Following the freckled boy and seeing what he did was the most important thing for her, because she was his friend, right? It was normal for her to worry about her friend, right? Yes, there was nothing wrong with following him and knowing that this girl was not bad for him. Yes, that was the reason why the light blue-haired girl justified herself, or why she wanted to justify herself in case she was discovered. Nijire could see how both young men entered a small ice cream shop. She saw how the young men sat at the same table together, and they could get a couple of ice creams for both of them. She also entered the ice cream shop and sat at one of the tables that were close to the table where the green-haired boy and the dark-haired girl were. Likewise, the light blue-haired girl asked for an ice cream to eat. Since she wasn't very close she couldn't hear very well what they were saying. This frustrated Nijire a little because she wanted to know what they were talking about, but she couldn't get any closer or she would be discovered. And if she was discovered she couldn't lie to the green-haired man. If she couldn't do it then he knew her very well, and would know if she was lying or not. Yes, that was the advantage the green-haired man had over Nijire. so he only limited himself to watching them out of the corner of his eye, noticing how they laughed very amicably. The light blue-haired boy just frowned, because seeing them so happy and smiling together bothered her a lot. She wanted to go and hug the green-haired boy to make it clear to him that he was hers, that he was her friend, and that she wouldn't let him be taken away from her. But those thoughts vanished when she remembered the accidental kiss they had given each other. The blue-haired girl's cheeks turned a deep pink color. Just remembering that couldn't help but get nervous, and when she was able to calm down she looked back at their table and noticed that they were no longer there. Nijire, it can't be that I was just careless for a minute. They're gone now. She said this in an almost loud voice, causing all the people in the place to turn to look at her. Nijire noticed this and quickly sat down, blushing with embarrassment. In less than 10 seconds she ate her ice cream, paid for it, and left the store. When she went out she realized that it had started to rain. She looked to her right side and could see that about 15 meters away they were walking, both covered by an umbrella that the brunette had created. Yes, they were sharing the umbrella together, very close to each other. Nijire was about to follow him, but she didn't have an umbrella and she was going to get wet, since she was under the small roof of the ice cream shop. Seeing that they were getting further and further away from her, Nijire decided to follow them regardless of whether she got wet or not. She was determined. She took a step forward but felt someone stop her from behind, grabbing her by the collar of her uniform. The light blue-haired girl noticed that there was a black umbrella over her head and a familiar voice said to her, "Hey, silly girl, if you go out in the rain like that, you could get sick." Nijire turned around, seeing a certain blonde with red eyes and an unpleasant character. "Nijire, ah, you are a Muslim." "Kakan, who are you calling a weirdo Muslim?" "Nijire, who are you calling a weird Muslim?" They both stared at each other, clearly annoyed by the other's comment. Kakan just smiled evilly, saying, "Hey, tell me, how does it feel to reject someone thinking that they are in love with you?" Nijire just opened her eyes wide, knowing what he was talking about. She blushed a lot and got nervous. Bakugo just laughed mockingly, saying, "Deku told me what happened that night. Now I know why you were so embarrassed to look at Deku." Nijire, shut up, it could happen to anyone, she said, quite embarrassed. Bakugo, yes sure, whatever you say. The blonde was laughing his head off. Nijire made a cute pout, saying, "Don't laugh, Baka," he said while giving him small punches on the chest. Bakugo only laughed louder, annoying Nijire. Nijire, already quite upset, would say, "With that attitude you'll never get a girlfriend." Bakugo stopped laughing, saying, "If the girl who doesn't have a boyfriend because she's weird speaks." Nijire, understand. For your information, I don't have a boyfriend because I'm not interested in any guy at the moment. Bakugo, yes, whatever you say, weirdo. Nijire remembered what she was doing and turned her gaze, seeing the couple in the distance, almost about to lose sight of them. Without thinking, he said to the blonde on his shirt, "There's no time to waste, let's go quickly." Bakugo, oh come on. He couldn't finish speaking because the light blue-haired girl dragged him with her while she walked quickly. After about 5 minutes we can see the blonde and the blue-haired girl following the couple. Bakugo had a little tick in his right eye, saying, "Hey weirdo, can you tell me why we are following Deku and that girl?" Nijire, well, as her friends we should know if that girl is good or not for IZUKU. Don't you think so? The blonde was about to answer when Nijire saw how the couple entered karaoke. She took Bakugo, and they both entered the same place as them. The sky blue-haired girl asked the receptionist of the place about that couple, and when he was about to answer her, a certain haired girl said, "Hey Nijire Kakan? What are you doing here?" he asked while looking at them somewhat astonished. The blue-haired girl got a little nervous. "Bakugo, you see, I wanted to apologize to Nijire for what I said to her on her birthday, so I invited her to karaoke to make peace, that's all." Nijire opened her eyes wide and looked at the blonde. "IZUKU, I see, then why don't you join us?" "I already rented a room to sing with a friend I'm with." She was left choosing the music. "What do you say you want to come with us?" Nijire, yes. "If we want." "IZUKU, perfect, come on, let's go." The green-haired boy turned around and started walking. The blonde boy and the blue-haired boy also started following him. Nijire looked sideways at Bakugo. She stopped him by his shirt and said in his ear, "Thank you." The light blue-haired girl gave him a tender smile and began to walk. Kaken, seeing that smile, could see that that smile was different from the one she always showed. The blonde could only see her walking backwards. He saw how her light blue hair reached a little below her knees. He also saw how Nijire had her hands clasped behind her back. The blonde just closed his eyes and started walking following her. Chapter 9. You are irreplaceable to me. Upon arriving at the room, the brunette saw that the green-haired man was accompanied by 2 other people. Momo, IZUKU, and who are they? IZUKU, Momo, they are my friends and they will keep us company, I hope, and it doesn't bother you. Momo gave a kind smile saying, "Of course not, the more the better." The green-haired man smiled at him saying, "You're right. Momo, my name is Momo Yayorozu, nice to meet you." Nijire looked at her closely, making the brunette nervous. Kaken sighed saying, "Don't pay attention to her, she's always so weird. I'm Katsuki Bakugo, friend of the nerd next to you. And the weird one is Nijire Hado." Nijire, understand. Who do you call weirdo? Bakugo, do you see another weirdo around here? Nijire looked at him with a cute pout as a sign that she was upset. IZUKU, well then let's begin. The first to sing was Momo. The dark-haired girl had a beautiful voice. The green-haired man encouraged her and showed her a big smile. So the minutes passed and everyone was having fun. Bakugo and IZUKU also sang, which was a fun moment because at first they argued about which song they were going to choose. This made Nijire and the brunette laugh a lot. Momo certainly had a beautiful smile on her face. Yes, she was having fun like she never had before. After leaving the karaoke, the rain had already stopped. The green-haired man told Kaken and Nijire to leave first since he would pay for everything. They nodded. As they walked down the hall of the place, Bakugo gave Nijire a light tap on the head. "Nijire, Aokoi. Why did you hit me?" she asked as she looked at him with a comical tear threatening to fall from her left eye. Bakugo looked at her with a neutral expression saying, "Why are you not honest with yourself? Say you're jealous that the nerd is with another girl other than you. You think that girl can take your best friend's spot, right?" Nijire just opened her eyes wide. "Bakugo, I saw you have a sad look when Deku and Momo sang a song together. You know that for him you are irreplaceable, you will always be his best friend. So stop worrying so much." Kaken turned his back and started walking and in a low voice said, "For me, too, you are irreplaceable." The light blue-haired girl managed to hear the blonde's words, but she thought she had heard wrong. But the words he had said to her just now certainly made her happy. It was as if he had calmed all her thoughts. She smiled slightly, saying, "You know, I'm starting to think you're a good person." Bakugo, hey, what's this about you starting to think? You know you're really annoying. Nijire just laughed, saying, "But still, do you love me or not?" Kaken, he said tenderly. Bakugo had a vein on his forehead that would say, "You're earning a free shine, weirdo." After a few minutes, the green-haired boy and Momo went out, seeing how Nijire and the blonde boy were waiting for them outside. At that moment a limousine arrived at the place. Momo already had to return home. The black-haired girl said goodbye, saying, Thank you for this day, IZUKU-kun. I really had a lot of fun with you and you guys too. I hope we can hang out together again." The brunette showed them a kind smile and asked, "Are you sure you don't want me to bring you home with my arms?" Everyone shook their heads. "IZUKU, don't worry about us, Momo." The brunette hugged him, saying, "See you?" She smiled at him and got into her limousine. The green-haired man could only watch as the limousine drove away from them. He turned around looking at Nijire, who raised his eyebrows, saying, "Well, Nijire and Kaken, I hope for a good explanation. I want to know why they were following us. Especially you, Nijire." They both opened their eyes wide. Nijire, well, Kaken and I. She looked to her side, noticing how the blonde was no longer there. Immediately the blonde's voice was heard several meters away from her saying, "Good luck with this, Nijire, goodbye." "Nijire, don't run away, coward." The light blue-haired girl turned around looking nervously at her green-haired friend, who was waiting for an answer. "IZUKU, it's obvious that what Kaken said earlier was a lie. I didn't say anything because we weren't alone, so I just went with the flow. And I hear you well." Nijire smiled awkwardly and pretended to check the time on her phone, saying, "Oh, look what time it is, Mom must be worried about me. I better go, bye Izu." She felt the green-haired man grab her hand, stopping her. Nijire met those emerald eyes of her friend, Izuku's side, saying, "You know you're bad at lying, right?" Nijire nodded tenderly with her head lowered. "Izuku, pero. That's just you, and I love you just the way you are. I couldn't change you or replace you, Nijire. So, you have no reason to think that someone else can take you away from me." Nijire opened her eyes wide upon hearing those words. She felt the green-haired man give her a warm hug, saying, "You are my best friend." Nijire without hesitation returned the hug, and when they separated she asked, "See, can I ask you a question?" "Izuku, of course." "Nijire, when you told me I wasn't your type, what did you mean?" Izuku had a drop of sweat on his head and would say, "Oh, look at what time it is. My mother must be worried about me. See you, Nijire." The green-haired man tried to escape but felt Nijire behind him holding him without letting go of his hand. He swallowed, watching out of the corner of his eye as she emanated a murderous aura. "Nijire, don't try to escape like I wanted to just now and answer my question or else." "Izuku, or else what?" "Nijire, or else I'll get mad at you." 7 minutes later. We can see how Izuku walked with the light blue-haired girl towards his house. Nijire had a cute pout while eating a chocolate bar. "Nijire, baka," she said tenderly. Izuku just laughed a little, saying, "Are you still mad at me?" Nijire, while eating the chocolate bar that the green-haired man had bought her, would say, "Maybe." After leaving Nijire at her house, the green-haired boy went to his own house and realized that his mother had not returned yet. He went to his room and lay down on his bed. The freckled boy saw his phone watching Mina's chat. The freckled boy wanted to talk to the pink-haired girl, but he was undecided about what to do, whether to send her a message or call her. Meanwhile, a certain pink-haired girl was lying in her bed in the same way, looking at her phone, wondering if she should text him or call him. Both were thinking about each other. Mina's eyes lit up when she saw how the green-haired man was calling her. She answered without hesitation. The two young people stayed up talking until very late, and then they said goodbye. Mina was happy to have talked to him, and even more so now that she knew that next weekend she would have a date with the green-haired man. The pink-haired girl's heart was beating very fast with happiness. She certainly wanted that day to come as soon as possible. In this way, a week passed since that day. Izuku and Kaken had trained hard with all might. During that week, Nijire tried to find out why she wasn't the type of girl that Izuku liked, but the light blue-haired girl had no success. We can see a certain green-haired boy sitting on the swing in that square where he had met the pink-haired girl. The reason was simple, because he was waiting for her to have their first date. He saw a messy head of pink hair appear in the distance. He smiled slightly. Mina, upon arriving with Izuku, smiled tenderly, saying, "And here we are again, in this place you and I met. Izuku, you're right. You look very beautiful today, Mina." Mina blushed slightly, saying, Thank you, you are also very cute." Izuku extended his hand, saying, "Would the beautiful Miss Ashido like to take my hand so we can go on our date?" Mina showed him a tender smile, taking the green-haired boy's hand, saying, "Yes, I do." The freckled boy intertwined his fingers with hers in a tender hold, and the two of them began to walk together. Mina was happy to walk hand in hand with the green-haired boy, because it felt like they were a real couple. The tender way he held her hand made the pink-haired boy feel endless emotions. "Mina, why are we walking like this? You said you like someone, right? If that person sees us like that, you would lose an opportunity with them." He said this last thing somewhat sadly. "Izuku, Well, today is our first date. I took your hand because I don't want to be separated from you even for a second. Yes, it's true I said I liked a girl, but there's no problem with us walking hand in hand. Since I'm walking hand in hand with the girl I like. Mina opened her eyes wide at those words, blushing tenderly. Her heart had accelerated. This would say, "Don't play with me. I don't think I'm the girl you like," he said somewhat sadly. IZUKU gave her a kind smile, saying, "Then I'll make you believe me. I'll tell you as many times as necessary until you believe me. I really like you, Mina. I promise I will win your heart." Chapter 10. I will wait for you no matter how long it is. Those words hit the pink-haired girl's chest warmly, causing her to blush slightly. Mina saw the green-haired boy and could feel how for a few seconds everything around her had stopped just for them. Those emerald eyes that she liked so much looked at her with affection, while the freckled boy held her hand without letting go. His words were sincere and she knew it. She was undoubtedly happy to know that he had feelings for her. But after having her first disappointment in love, she was unsure about whether to trust in love again. Inside her, a part of her was afraid of getting hurt again. Although the green-haired boy was different, Mina couldn't help but have that fear of feeling sorry for herself again. She didn't want the same thing to happen to her again. She knew that if she saw IZUKU kissing another boy, it would hurt her more than the first disappointment she had with her first love. Mina, IZUKU, don't answer me now. Take your time to think about whether to accept me or not. Mina opened her eyes slightly, staring into his eyes. IZUKU, I know it won't be easy for you to trust in love again, since you were hurt by doing so. I know I can never replace your first love, but I would like to get to know you better, to know more about the girl I like, and I also want you to get to know me better. I'm also afraid of saying or doing something that could hurt you, and if I hurt you, I would. I could never forgive myself. I don't want to see you cry again. I want to draw a beautiful smile on that pretty face of yours. But not just any smile, but one that makes me fall in love with you more and more every day, a smile that is only for me and no one else. Sometimes we are not aware of what we say and unintentionally end up hurting others. That is why I want to earn your trust in your heart, no matter how long it takes you to make a decision whether to accept me or not. I will wait for you, Mina. Even if you don't accept me, I will still be by your side, caring for you and loving you. He smiled warmly at her. Mina, without realizing it, was shedding some tears because of those beautiful words that the freckled boy had given her. IZUKU, seeing those tears, approached her and gently placed his hands on her cheeks, stopping the flow of her tears. The freckled boy rested his forehead against the pink-haired girl's and said in a low voice, "And if one day I win your heart, then?" He approached the pink-haired girl's lips, tenderly touching them with his own, saying, "That day I will kiss you as if your lips were the only thing that can keep me alive. Because I swear to you that if that were the case, then I would kiss you every day of my life to continue living by your side." Mina could feel the touch of her lips, blushing even stronger as she brought her right hand to the freckled boy's left cheek, saying, "Thank you until that day, then. Wait for me, yes." "IZUKU, I'll do it, Mina." The freckled man separated from her, saying, "Come on, let's go to our date, Mina." Mina nodded her head tenderly as she intertwined her fingers with his in a tender hold as they began to walk together. Meanwhile, that same day, a certain light blue-haired girl had invited Bakugu to a small cafe downtown. The blonde had arrived at the cafeteria minutes earlier and sat at a table, ordering something to drink while he waited for the light blue-haired girl. This one, while sitting, would say, "What do you want to talk about? TCH woke me up from my nap to make me come here. It's definitely very annoying, but..." In the end I agreed and came to the place. After 5 minutes Nijire arrived. Upon entering the store she looked for the blonde, and upon seeing him she smiled slightly and walked towards him. Upon arriving she greeted him with a beautiful smile on her face. Kaken, upon seeing that smile for the second time, just looked out the window of the store, saying, "Until you finally arrived, weirdo, you made me wait a long time." Nijire pouted cutely, saying, "Hey, at least you could say that you just arrived or something like that, you know. You really don't know anything about how to treat a girl." The light blue-haired girl sat in front of the blonde when the waitress arrived. She had 2 orders. She placed one next to Kaken and the other in front of Nijire. Nijire, seeing what was in front of her, said, "This is." The light blue-haired girl looked up at the blonde, who said, "It's your favorite chocolate shake, right? I ordered it for you. I figured you'd like to have it," he said without looking at her. Nijire just couldn't stop looking at the blonde and gave a slight smile, saying, "Thanks, Kaken." "Kaken, HMP whatever, tell me. Why did you invite me to this place?" Nijire, "Oh, you see, I want you to help me." Kaken looked at her confused, asking, "You want my help with what?" Nijire, with a slight blush on her cheeks, would say, "Well, I want to get closer to IZUKU, you know. I want you to help me so that IZUKU sees me as more than a friend." "Kaken, is it? But if I remember correctly, you rejected him when you thought he was going to confess to you, right?" Nijire, "Well, that time I got nervous and said that as an excuse. The truth is, I really like it when he is by my side. When I hug him, I feel my heart race, causing me a tender sensation. I know I'm not very honest sometimes, I admit it, but Kaken, I will do it." "Boy, huh?" Kaken again turned his gaze towards the window, saying, "I'll help you, weirdo." Nijire, "Are you really going to do it?" "Kaken, I already told you that if you don't be so mo." He couldn't finish speaking as Nijire stood up from her spot and gave the blonde a warm hug, taking him by surprise. Nijire, thank you, Kaken." The blonde felt happiness in his friend's words, and in his thoughts he would say, "How many times have I told you that I don't like hugs, but this time his hug is TCH just this once." Nijire could feel the blonde's arms gently hugging her, reciprocating her hug. She looked up at the blonde, who still wasn't looking at her. "Nijire, this is the first time you hug me. Why?" "Kaken, if you don't like it, just say it like that, I'll let you go and that's it." Nijire smiled tenderly, saying, "Could it be that? Did you fall in love with my Kaken?" At that question the blonde gave the light-haired girl a light punch on the head, saying, "Don't talk nonsense, weirdo." Nijire, "Oh boy, that really hurt me, silly," he said with a small tear in his right eye. "Kaken, well, you earned it, weirdo." Nijire just laughed tenderly, seeing how the blonde had reacted. She clearly noticed that he had blushed slightly at her question.
Let me know in the comments below if you guys want the next part. Also check out my other video that has been shown in left. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and share this video. And have a fantastic day. Bye.